This is OPPO's Find X9 Pro and OPPO's latest flagship. It sports an updated design, a new more powerful SoC, a whopping 7,500 mAh battery, improved optics with a new 200 megapixel telephoto camera, and all this without increasing the launch price. So it's actually quite an interesting phone. And today, let's unbox it and take a close look at what OPPO is offering here. If this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, you're here with Zaidi, you're watching ZaidiEsTech, and let's get started. Let's start with the unboxing. We've got prominent OPPO and Hasselblad logos to the front, more branding to the sides. As always, I've picked up the base variant, which is 12,256. OPPO does offer up to 16 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabytes of storage, LPDDR5X and UFS 4.1 respectively. Once we open up the box, the first thing we see is this white insert. This contains a leaflet and a color match softcase. Next up is the Find X9 Pro itself. I picked up what I feel is the best colorway this time, this red. It kind of reminds me of some model that Motorola launched last year. If you remember which one, drop a comment. Now, other colors that OPPO offers are white and gray. Like I said, this looks the best. Now, coming back to the box, we then have a SIM tool, a USB Type-A to Type-C cable with white accents, and finally, an 80-watt SuperVOOC charger. Like I said earlier, this phone has a 7,500 mAh battery with a battery capacity that high. The charging time is a little longer even with an 80-watt charger. But that said, it's still fast enough for charging speeds to not be an issue. And then there is support for both 50-watt wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. And when you're gaming, you even get to bypass charging entirely. So OPPO has focused on quality of life features here. Despite the battery capacity growing by over 25% this generation, the Find X9 Pro is only 9 grams heavier while having a smaller overall footprint than its predecessor. That's all the more impressive given the display sizes haven't changed, and we even get a flat panel now, so the bezels are very, very narrow. Now guys, here's something I didn't like, and it's not just with the Find X9 Pro. I'm just not a fan of this boxy trend that every brand seems to be jumping on. I mean, don't get me wrong, on phones with smaller screens like, say, the Vivo X300 or the OnePlus 13s, or even the iPhone 17 Pro, I'm very happy with flat screens and flat backs. But on phones with this size display, 6.8-inch panels, I would prefer for at least the back to curve inwards. I mean, OPPO have rounded off the edges and they've curved the corners, sure, but still, this all-flat build, it isn't very ergonomic. Now, the aluminum frame and the glass back both have a matte finish, so they are very resistant to picking up fingerprints and smudges. And this camera array, it's now a rounded rectangle aligned to the top left. It works for me, more space to rest my fingers. It does get a little wobbly even with the case on, but it's not a big deal. OPPO does continue to offer an IR blaster. The alert slider has been replaced by a shortcut button that can be programmed to do a bunch of things. And the quick button that we saw last year, the one that's kind of similar to Apple's camera control, that also returns. We still get a solid ingress protection rating. The fingerprint scanner has now been changed. It's ultrasonic and placed very comfortably. The display, apart from being flat, is quite similar to what we got last year. It's still a 6.78-inch AMOLED panel with a 1.5K resolution and 120 Hz refresh rate. Add stereo speakers to that, and this is a very good setup for media consumption. By the way, there is LTPO support so that 120 Hz refresh can be varied as needed. With brightness, this panel can output over 1,900 nits in auto mode, so plenty bright for outdoor use and indoors when under low light. It can drop to as low as 1 nit. And there's also 2,160 Hz high-frequency PWM dimming in case you are sensitive to that OLED flicker. Now under the hood, the Find X9 Pro is powered by a MediaTek flagship SoC, the Dimensity 9500, and this brings with it about a 20% boost in performance from last year. While the benchmark scores are very impressive, the Find X9 Pro is not a phone that's meant for performance, since if you look at it after a 20-minute stress test, it lost about 65% of its performance peak. And that's under the regular mode. Under performance mode, it throttled even quicker, resulting in even worse results. At least it did not get too hot, with them staying under the 45-degree mark, even after being stressed. Now, all this said, it still has enough power to run most games. Just don't consider picking this phone up if long, intense gaming sessions or something like Windows emulation is high on your list of priorities. Now, that begs the question, who should be picking up this phone? Who's the target demographic? Well, I would say people who have optics high on their list of priorities, That's who OPPO is focusing on, and OPPO is offering a lot here. The primary sensor is now even larger. It's the Sony IMX828, a 50-megapixel 1 by 1.28-inch sensor, and it's paired with an optically stabilized lens that's even faster this time around. Results, as you can see, are excellent. Even under low light, images were clean with minimal noise. Highlights were very well controlled. Now, from a software perspective, OPPO does provide a high-resolution option, where by default, instead of shooting 12 megapixels, the camera tends to shoot 26 or 50 megapixel photos, depending on the light available. Now, this results in even more detail if needed. Do note that file sizes can go up to 20 megabytes when you have this on. Now, the ultra-wide, it's the familiar 50-megapixel Samsung JN5. Not much has changed with this, but the telephoto, we only get one this year, but it's the much larger Samsung HP5. 1 by 1.56 inches, 200 megapixels, and it's paired with an optically stabilized f2.1 lens, 70 millimeters equivalent. This is an excellent upgrade. The telephoto shots came out great. Even when you zoom into, say, 6x or higher, the results were very good. Despite losing one sensor, I don't feel like this is a compromise from last year, but rather an upgrade. There is a 200 megapixel mode, which especially is great for portrait shots. I mean, just look at the detail on his face here. And when you do shoot 200 megapixels, there's this nice animation. I like the attention to detail. It was shown. Keep in mind that you only need to hold the phone still for a couple of seconds, not till the entire animation is done. By the way, these 200 megapixel pictures, they are huge, can go up to 50 megabytes. Moving on, the Find X9 Pro supports shooting 10-bit log at up to 4K, 120 frames per second via both the X9 Pro and X9 Pro Max selfie video maxes, out at 4K 60, and the selfies themselves were fine, nothing to complain about. The Expand mode, thanks to Hasselblad, also returns, and we now get 5 different styles to choose from. It's not just that, even when in the regular photo mode or master mode, you can choose the Expand aspect ratio, meaning you get to use all those filters available there. With motion photos, OPPO offers 4K resolution, so the moving part of the image, it's all recorded in 4K, unlike on other brands and Apple where it's full HD. There are a lot of little things like this with the software. With ColorOS 16 that runs on top of Android 16, OPPO has paid a lot of attention to detail everywhere. The software experience here is pretty fluid, so no complaints. By the way, OPPO does promise 5 years of major Android updates for this phone. It is not 7, but in my humble opinion, I'd still say it's good. Now, like I said at the start of this video, the launch price for this phone has not changed from last year. The Find X9 Pro still starts at $1,500. Converted prices should be on screen. That said, check out what price the Find X8 Pro launched at in your market last year, and most probably the Find X9 Pro will also launch at the same price. By the way, almost forgot, like Vivo, OPPO also sells an optional photography kit for the Find X9 Pro. Personally, I really liked how OPPO's gone with a MagSafe-like solution for the handle, so if you have a little extra cash and one-up your telephoto game, well, OPPO does give you an option. So overall, I feel like the Find X9 Pro, OPPO's done a very good job with it. If you're into cameras, don't really care about things like emulation or playing intensive games for a long time, the Find X9 Pro could be a great choice. But that's just my opinion. What do you think about this phone? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked the video, don't forget to give us hype. Also like the video and subscribe to ZaidiEsTech. This is Zaidi signing off. Thanks for watching till the end. Take care and peace out.